Hey, welcome here to the Montana Sportscast podcast as we make our way through the afternoon. Bob Ritterod, Paul Panisco with you, and we welcome head coach JC Isakson from the University of Providence. First, Bobby, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Tired of this snow, but I don't have much say over that.
Coach, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. We didn't get that snowstorm here, so a little bit better there. And thanks for having me.
Yeah, rub it in with no snow, man. Uh, First and foremost, congratulations on getting the gig at the University of Providence, Coach.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
What? Let's talk about that transition. Obviously, you take over after a tremendous head coach, a guy that everybody in the state of Montana and the entire Pacific Northwest knows. Um, is that something that helps you in your transition, or are those big shoes to fill? Kind of where are you at following a guy like that?
Obviously, huge shoes to fill. I mean, Coach Keller's he's an all-time great. He's a Hall of Famer. He's on the Mount Rushmore of Montana basketball coaches, and so huge role to fill. I've been hoping to step in for him for most of my career. Actually, when I was his assistant at Montana Western, there was loosely talk then of I could maybe take over when he's done. The funny part about that is, that's 2014, 15, and he's given me the I could be any time now. And I sit around waiting one more year forever. But we came here to Great Falls in 2018 with the hopes that this would be the opportunity one day, and took a few detours to get here, including getting out, taking a sabbatical, switching over to the women's side for a couple of years. But I'm very, very fortunate. Coaches, what he has built here and the foundation we have here, and what I mean, this team played in the Frontier Conference Championship this year. We're 2 years removed from being Frontier Conference champions, and the cupboards are not bare by any means. So,
Yeah.
stepping into a very good situation with big shoes to fill.
Through the years, I think everybody's been blindsided. There's always been surprises for coaching changes and things like that, and names that are thrown around. But you are the biggest no-brainer I think we have ever come across in the Frontier Conference as far as getting the job. I think everybody knew this job was yours before it probably the ink was dry on the paper.
Well, I appreciate that. There's sometimes on the other side of it, you feel like that. You're
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
waiting for it all to go through. But yeah, it kind of felt like a long time coming, and just amazing that it worked out the way it did, considering my sabbatical and change of roles the last couple of years.
You bring up a great point in the idea that obviously the cupboards are not bare. I mean, Providence with an awful lot of talent remaining, the quick transition and you taking over at the helm has to relieve a lot of question marks for the guys that are coming back because that's always a big question. The idea of how the players are going to react to new coaches or coaching staff changes. With you taking over that mantle, that really has to settle a lot of any discussion as far as guys in the locker room.
Yeah, it's been as smooth of a transition as it could be. I first off, I coached a lot of these guys have been around. I coached them a couple of years ago when I was here, or recruited them, or obviously in the colleges, small in the NEI, you're on the road together, opening up the gym for them. So there's a relationship there. But we went into this piece. Coach Keller played 9 guys in the Frontier Conference Championship game. Marcus Stevens is the only guy out of eligibility. So we went in right away with the purpose of retain, because we knew we had the pieces. And that was the first thing we went into. And it's looking like as of right now, we have everybody back. So that's a good piece to have. And knowing that allows us to kind of focus on what additional complementary pieces we can add to what we're retaining to be in a better spot going into next year's season.
With your history in the Frontier Conference, from a player's perspective and a coach's perspective, we've always talked about the fact that those that have been around it like their whole life, if you will, understand what this conference is about, because it's a different beast. Talk about that, if you don't mind, in your own words, a little bit, Coach.
Yeah, it's an unbelievable league. I'm a Montana guy. Grew up. I think it's just so cool. I remember my parents taking me to Frontier Conference games. The names that have came through the league over the years, and then obviously in the last 10, 5 years, the league's just gotten ridiculously good. This is a high level. There are players in this league that are Division I caliber players. The coaching in this league is unbelievable. I think from a big NEI standpoint, the Frontier Conference is Montana's league. Obviously, we have the two Divisions I schools. We have MSUB, the D2 school, but everywhere else is an NEI Frontier school for the league. And with that being the case, compared to some of these other states, I mean, we have the level of coaching and the level of programs we have in this league is amazing. It's real college basketball. And look at what Montana Tech just did this year. I mean, they go all the way to the Elite Eight without Caleb Bellich. Who knows where they would have went all that if he would have stayed healthy. And it's just, if you come out of the Frontier Conference, you have a chance to win it all, or at least a chance to be in the Final Four. And as we know, the separation between 1 and 6 in the league is razor thin as well. So that's just a testament to how good the league is, and the coaching is just phenomenal at this level. It's the real deal.
You know, you certainly bring up that idea of how razor thin the margins are between everybody in the conference, and this year that was the case. You know, like you say, Tech certainly wins the regular season outright by a couple games, but there's nobody you can overlook in this conference each and every week, and it's certainly how good the conference is hurt Providence. It hurt Northern when it came down to, you know, that selection day rolling around and finding out who was going to pods, who was going to be hosting pods. Because I think most everyone in this conference would agree wholeheartedly that not only would have Providence and Northern won games, that they might have won pods.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, the playing each other 3 times, very unique. It's what we have to do. But it definitely hurts us kind of in some scenarios. And it just puts an emphasis on how those non-conference games we do get, the tournament down in Arizona we host, or getting teams here. We're just in the day and age where we're using the RPI, and we're kind of uniforming how the national tournament is selected. And you got to get out and try to get some of those games against NEI competition. It just gets hard when some of the leagues have played 22 league games, right? They only have to get 6. So there's a lot of teams vying to try to get those. So got to get creative, but it's definitely a special league, battling night in and night out like that.
Well, the idea, the creativity, certainly we see that. You know, it feels like we've seen that in volleyball for years, and now it has transitioned to basketball in a big way. And like you say, as far as the RPI goes, the tournament that Providence started in Arizona with the Cactus Classic has been such a big help for our conference, not only getting quality opponents, but the games that are necessary, and also getting teams in front of ranked opponents and in front of Raiders. Are there other talks beyond, the Arizona tournament, trying to get to a neutral location, or trying to get something going with other conferences to get more of those games?
Yeah, definitely. Providence started that tournament, but Coach Dragerson at Rock, he has a major role in that tournament, getting teams there, handling the scheduling, and does a great job of getting teams there for us to play. You know, us coaches, we're getting together, trying to get in each other's tournaments, try to get in each other's classics. I think one thing I learned on the women's side that I think is really valuable is Coach Sayers, Coach Himmelberg, Coach Mowat, that, they work together to brain up teams from those other conferences from back east or the Midwest, and bring them up where they play 2 or 3 games through Montana. My 2 years on the women's side, we played Southeastern out of Florida, who was preseason #1. We played the defending national champions, Thomas More, last year up here in Montana. I think that's a good model to work together to bring teams in to Montana, get them 2 or 3 games. We're always looking to travel as well. That's one of the things we're going to lean on our boosters and our supporters a little bit and from a fundraising standpoint is it's important to get out there and play. I would love to see maybe us utilize, at a time there was the Vegas tournament. I think a Vegas tournament would be awesome in November to try to get a gym down there at the junior college and maybe bring 4 or 5 teams in. But it's going to become a necessity to set up a couple classics like that to get the type of scheduling needed to get at-large bids to the national tournament.
Talk about the difference in, like you say, being with the women's program the last couple of years, being with the men's programs for all the years. What do you learn about yourself and your coaching style when you go to the women's side and now back to the men's side? Because obviously they have to be handled differently.
That's funny you say that, Paul. Before I ever made the switch, I remember Coach Keller saying this. Coach the exact same way, and I tried to that same model. Coach the same exact way, and honestly, it was pretty quick that basketball is basketball. And as you guys know, the women's side at the Frontier Conference is very, very high level too, with phenomenal coaches and players in it, and probably more Division I bounce backs on the women's side than there are on the men's side. So basketball is basketball once the ball rolled out. I think I saw a lot of 4.0s and the academic piece of it. That was really nice when grades roll around and you have out of your 14, 15 kids, you got 9, 10 4.0s and the rest are 3.5s and above. That makes coaching a lot easier. I'd like to pull over to my side to moving forward, but coach ball was ball, and coaching it was coaching it, and learned a lot. I think one of the biggest things I learned was just how those other on the women's side, the coaches work together from a scheduling standpoint, how they kind of ran their programs. It was good for me those 2 years to go over there. I learned a pile from Coach Himmelberg, obviously very successful businessman, and he runs his program very efficiently, and that just helped me become a better leader and a more efficient head coach.
Yeah, good on you. Have you announced any of your staff yet?
Yeah, so we're right now we're keeping it pretty simple with the slide over. Shikey Smalls is staying and helping with me this spring. As we kind of move through the spring, he slid into that role early in the season. Mike McLean, we expect Mike McLean to stick around and help out moving forward as well. McLean, he just waits to see what hunting tags he draws and what fishing trips he's going on, and then he picks and chooses what he's going to be part of. But
you say that like a bad thing.
Yeah, no, he turned it. I told him he can wait. He can pick and choose. He can go on his elk hunts. He can go on his fishing trips, whatever he needs. But he can't. I know well enough that he can't stay away. So he'll be on staff with us, and then we've added Jalen Shepard. Jalen Shepard was on our first UP team when Coach Keller and I came over in 18-19. Played for Coach Tate at Miles City, and then we had him for 1 year of eligibility. He was newcomer of the year for us, and All-American. So he's coming back kind of as a student assistant role, going to finish his degree and work with our guys from a player development position. So that's kind of where we're at here going into the spring, and we're pretty excited about it being a smooth transition. Once again, I'm kind of one of the only new faces.
Good for you. Honestly, that, the idea of a lot of your major hurdles, kind of those big hurdles are kind of out of the way for you.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Got a phone call in the middle of that.
All good. Well, that, like I say, that has to be the idea of, those initial hurdles are such a big deal. The idea of figuring out who your staff is, the people you're going to surround yourself with. So in a quick transition, not only you getting the job in a quick transition, but knowing who your staff is going to be quickly, that has to make the road a heck of a lot smoother for you now as we get rolling into spring.
It does. Familiarity, absolutely. And then, with Shaikey, he played for us at Montana Western when Coach really had that thing rolling, and so he's played in a program that we want to model ourselves and emulate after. So that has value in it. Coach Jalen Shepard, he was instrumental in our first year here getting this thing going. Knows the program, knows what we're about. And then obviously you can't beat having a guy like Mike McLean, another Hall of Famer that's coached at many different levels, sitting next to you in your ear about how to be a head coach and how to handle situations.
Bobby, before you fall asleep in your big chair there, man, what do you got for Coach?
Well, talk a little bit about recruiting, JC. What's the difference? I know you did a lot of recruiting on both men's and women's side, but what's the difference in recruiting when you're the head coach now instead of being the assistant?
Yeah, that's kind of been the adjustment I've been going through. I'm working with Shaikey to make sure I'm grooming and passing things off to him to be the assistant coach as I take on more of the head coach roles. But no, recruiting wise, we want to do this thing with Montana kids. We want to be in the mix with every Montana kid. Obviously, once again, Frontier Conference is a Montana league. Every coach is recruiting the same kid. We're all recruiting the same kid. I think what's important for us is the days of recruiting high school kids, especially come this time of year, March, April. Those days are gone with the AAU basketball and where everything's at. You need to be building relationships with these kids, their sophomore, junior years, being around them when they play AAU basketball, getting them on campus for camps, have them in your gym so they're familiar with you. So that's our main focus, is just getting tied in with the AAU community, getting our camps up and rolling. On our another phone call. Kids on in our camp, and just building those relationships. I think kids have a lot of options to go play to in one of the premier. We want to be one of the premier destinations for them, but it starts with building relationships with these kids through camps and AAU and being around them from their sophomore year on. Outside of that, we have a long lineage of good players that we've coached and Shaikey has played with, or Jalen has played with, and we'll reach out to those areas, the Seattle, Tacoma area, the Las Vegas area. We want to keep a presence in there to bring in some talent that can help us win.
Well,
All
it's
right. JC, we got.
Go ahead, Bobby. Sorry.
Got Patrick on the line here too as well, so
Okay.
don't be giving away no recruiting secrets. But
All right.
Pat's laughing. I haven't brought him in yet, but want to thank you for coming on today, and good luck in the future. And it's I think it's just great to see both of you guys coming in as former players in the Frontier Conference. You're both Montana kids. And you're both going to do a great job for the Frontier Conference.
Thanks, gentlemen. I appreciate you having us on and all the support and everything you do to cover the league.
Yeah, look forward to seeing you soon, Coach.
All right.
Thanks.
Okay.
All right.
Yep.
And just like that, we move on.
Just like that. How we doing, Coach?
Doing great. How are you guys doing? Thank you for having me on. Thanks for the opportunity. Excited to talk some hoops with you guys today.
Hey, we appreciate your time. I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
this is a busy time for you, and looking forward to getting your feet on the ground and running, man.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it was nice to catch some recruiting updates from Coach Isakson right there too. Crossover there.
Well, and honestly, we'll get into that and we'll talk about it. But the one thing I want, you probably heard Bobby at the end of that, the idea of the importance. What is the importance in your mind of the fact that you know the Frontier as well as you did? You played in it, you've coached in it. Um, what does that mean to you being able to move forward as a head coach now in the Frontier Conference with the knowledge of what this conference is behind you?
I think it's something that really excites me. It's obviously a very humbling experience, being fortunate enough to play in the Frontier for 5 years and then coach as an assistant for 5 years and now be in this position. Just knowing, kind of the history of the league, where it's been, where it's going, and all the connections that, obviously the Frontier is very close knit. And I think every coach now has former experience playing in the Frontier Conference. So
Yeah.
very close knit family, and something it's really exciting about the job.
I was really happy, I'm as a Frontier fan, and certainly, I've been around Western my entire life, but how quickly the decision was made. I was, as far as making sure that players are around and everybody is consistent and everybody's together, making the decision as quickly as they did to hire you. Personally, I thought was a great move by Western, and certainly had to help your case. Whereas, you get in the locker room, you talk to your guys immediately, and then you're able to get out and get recruiting come state tournaments.
Yeah, no, I was very fortunate, and thankful for Michael Filing to move with it quickly. And I know Coach Isakson was kind of in the same position where we both got hired at the same time. We're able to be at divisional tournaments and state tournaments, and kind of hit the road recruiting without that interim tag. That was huge.
What talk about the locker room? How has the reception been as far as the guys there? And then let's talk about moving forward for Western.
I think it was awesome. I've been very fortunate to have some really good relationships with the guys that we have in the locker room, and fortunate, to recruit most of them. And I think that was something that was really cool, just having those exit interviews with them and, kind of laying the groundwork to continue moving forward, and kind of knowing where all of them have came from and kind of what their past is, and then what goals they have moving forward and how they can help this program move forward as well.
What so when you are thinking recruiting, how many spots do you think you need to fill this year, Coach?
I think we have to fill about 5 or 7.
Okay.
Depending on red shirts or whatnot, but we definitely have to replace, Tanner, Jock, and Jamal. Those 3 seniors were, 3 starters for us. Jock being on the all defensive team, Jamal being an all conference type player, and then Tanner being a 3-year captain for us. Those are 3 very big roles and very important roles to fill.
Yeah.
And we have to make sure we get the right guys that, can step into, not be those guys, but be the best versions of themselves to help this program move forward.
Yeah, like you say, you certainly graduate some real leadership, but you bring back an awful lot of a great core to help you move forward into that first year.
Yeah, no, very excited about, very fortunate to have Tanner's little brother Michael coming back, and I think with his 2 years of eligibility left, we're really excited about where he can go and continued growth he's had in his career, and just the consistent workman-like approach he brings every day to the program.
What are your hurdles? I guess let's start with your staff first. Have you decided for the guys that are going to be with you yet?
Sorry, what was that?
As far as the your coaching staff.
Yeah,
Do
no,
you
I
have-
haven't. I haven't hired an assistant coach yet. I'm
Okay.
talking to a couple different people and working on a couple different things. I want to make sure I get the right person, that is excited to come in and get connected with our guys, and wants to build those relationships with them.
Obviously, as an assistant coach, this is the goal. I mean, the idea of getting the helm at a college is the goal. That, coming into that, do you kind of have a short list of a Rolodex of people that you're like, oh yeah, I could totally see this person helping me as an assistant coach? Is that something you kind of update through the years as an assistant?
Yeah, no, I think it's something you kind of always think about. I've been fortunate to, coach with select basketball and AAU, and they have a very big network of college coaches, and I've gotten to know some guys through that. And then I've been very fortunate enough to work with Midwest Elite Basketball, and they run a lot of camps in Wyoming, Montana, Idaho, and then a bunch back in the Midwest as well. But working with some of those coaches, it's always nice to get on the road and, get in a different gym and pick other coaches' brains and hear different ideas. And you're always kind of thinking, I really like what, that guy's style, or I really like his energy and approach to basketball and how he carries himself. And those are kind of things you're always thinking about or always looking out for.
How much does their region play into that factor? Because obviously, as a Montana guy, you know Montana pretty well.
Mhm.
Is it real important from a recruiting aspect of having someone from a different metropolitan area, or is that something that a hurdle you can get over as long as they mesh with what you want personally?
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely something to think about. I know knowing the frontier and kind of knowing the landscape of Montana is definitely something that's important. I know we're very spread out. There's not too many junior colleges that are close by, which can sometimes be a hurdle for people coming in from the outside to kind of think about that. But I think that's definitely something, if somebody has some, Montana ties, that definitely plays a big role, because that's where recruiting starts for us. And having as many ties and connections to the state as we can have, that's gonna only benefit us moving forward.
Hey, Bobby, I'll send him over to you, my friend.
Well, first of all, congratulations on the job, and congratulations on Loyola boys. I'm sure you probably had a chance to check in on that tournament a little bit in the Class B, former player there yourself.
Yeah, no, that was it all kind of happened in the same week, so it was really cool to see Coach Anderson, get that state title. And I think the future of that program is really exciting too, with the sophomores they have and how well they're playing. And thank you, appreciate it, and thanks for having me on. Excited to talk with you guys some more.
No, it's exciting for us. As I told JC, I just think it's great that you guys both played in the Frontier, and now you're coaching in the Frontier. I just think it's great for Montana in the Frontier Conference. But playing for Coach Hughes up there, are you going to take the air out of the ball like he does and slow the game down? Paul and I talk about it all the time, Coach. And boy, there's nobody that controls the tempo of the game more than Coach Hughes at Northern. He just totally controls the tempo of a game, I think. And so, what's your thoughts on playing for Coach Hughes, and what will you take from his coaching?
No, I'm obviously, very thankful to have had the opportunity to play for Coach Hughes, and he was kind of one of my first mentors, or people that I kind of look up to as far as coaching. When I started out at Northern, I didn't really have any interest in coaching, and then I got later and towards my senior year, and I kind of started to become a little bit more interested in it. And he kind of took me under his wing and helped me do a internship where I helped out with his camps, and then helped out with some other camps across the country, like MSU Billings. Then I went to Indiana, actually worked a camp there, and he helped with that process. And he kind of, was a guy that I've always looked up to and thought very highly of. And he's always kind of had my back and helped me out in any way he could. And now it's, kind of funny that we're in this situation. Actually, funny story, I talked to him today, and he called and he's like, so does this mean your parents aren't going to donate to our 3-Point Club fundraiser anymore? Or I said, that's probably something we might have to consider. I might have to talk to them about, they might not be able to donate to that anymore. I don't know. We'll have to see. So, no, it's definitely, definitely really cool. And, obviously I'm going to take a lot from Coach Hughes and just, the 5 years I spent with him and learning from him. There's a lot of, not only basketball things I learned from him, but, off the court and lifelong lessons I learned as well.
Yeah, for sure. Great mentor. Just another one of the great coaches in the Frontier. But want to thank you for coming on and taking time out of your day. And I know you're probably got your hands full trying to find coaches and recruiting as well all at once. And but we want to wish you the best of luck, and we'll definitely be in touch throughout the year and next season.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much for having me on today. I really enjoyed it. And thank you guys for your continued coverage of the Frontier and all that you do for basketball in Montana.
Well, yeah, Coach Jensen, we
right.
appreciate your time, man, and best of luck, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Take care.
Yep.
All right. So two
What do you
Montana
think?
boys
What do you
from
think,
Frontier
Mr. Paul?
guys. Yeah, it's exciting. You
Yeah, I
get
don't
those
think-
two guys ready to roll.
Yeah, I just think it's we talk about how good the coaches are in the Frontier Conference all the time, and I don't think these two are going to hurt any at all. I think there's going to be some growing pains, of course, there always is, but they're both very familiar with Montana basketball. They're both connected into the AAU and the other programs very deeply, in fact, both of them, and I think it's going to just increase the level of competition as these two young men grow and learn and move forward.
I think the idea of the growing pains, they're going to be there. You're going to have moments where, as a head coach, you're going to learn things. But I think it's going to be lessened due to the fact that they both come from in-program. They both, the idea of we're able to get in the locker room quickly, talk to the guys. This isn't going to be, if I really did. I applaud Western for how quickly they did it. Providence is a private institution, can make those decisions pretty quickly. But Western, with it being a state-run institution, has to follow a certain set of rules as far as the hiring process goes. And the idea that they were able to get it done as quickly as they did, I applaud. I think it's a great decision. I think he's going to do a great job. And I think it's going to lessen the burden. If they go through a whole process and they take a couple months to interview a couple different people, if they came to the same decision, I think you still might lose some guys. And if they bring in a different coach, I think the locker room clears out entirely, and then the learning curve is only even deeper. So I think both institutions made great decisions. And I think both programs will be ready to roll right out of the gate. But again, we know how just insanely talented this conference is. It's not going to be easy, but we do know that both coaches will be ready to roll for it.
And I think neither one of the cupboards are bare, Paul. They both have great players coming back. Western, I know you're going to miss saying Jock's name. I know you love that name. So
I loved him.
But they've got a lot coming back, and both of them do. They've got a great core of players coming back, and I think Kenny Curtis might be. I just love watching him play up there at Providence. That little quick guard, out of, I believe he's out of Tacoma or out of Washington anyway. But I really enjoyed watching him. His quickness. He might be one of the quickest guards that I've seen in the Frontier for a while. But fun to watch, and definitely players on both sides.
Yeah, I think they both really do bring back quite a bit. And again, having that leadership set in place right now is really going to help them. There's no questions. There's no what ifs. There's no waiting around for a couple of months to see who they're going to hire, see if it's somebody the locker room's going to like or not. The decisions were made quick. It allowed the coaches to get into divisional tournaments and state tournaments and start that recruiting process now. Yeah, I think both institutions really did themselves a lot of good by pulling the trigger quickly. And again, I applaud them for it. That's not an easy decision to make, and I think they did the right thing.
And I think that goes back to your title of not being an assistant coach. Like Coach Jensen was the associate head coach. That
Yeah.
to me, that kind of says that get prepared, because you will be our first choice as a head coach. It's probably not written in stone anywhere, but I think that's just kind of what people take for granted with that title. And I think that was a prime example at Western. I just think that he was the associate head coach, and nothing like Larson. I think Mike did a tremendous job. We haven't talked about him, but I thought he did a great job at Western the past years. I believe 5 years he was there, maybe 6.
Yeah, right.
I thought he did a great job of putting together a pretty nice ball club.
And that said, it's interesting. When Coach Jensen was talking about the idea of recruiting most of those guys, so we certainly know his ability to get talent in. He's going to have to go out and do a little digging. Like you said, he needs to recruit 5 to 7 guys. He does have some significant leadership graduating, but last year Tech was in that position where they had everybody graduate. This year, Tech isn't going to graduate anybody, whereas the other programs are going to lose some pretty significant pieces. And we'll see how, the recruiting process goes. And I'm interested to see who pulls in who. That part's awful fun to see. We know how good this conference is. We know how well it's coached and recruited. This is a fun time of year to see who is going to land who and where the talent comes from, not only around Montana, but around the country to make our conference better.
Yeah, and it's a tough time for the coaches, because a lot of these kids are kind of waiting to see what happens on a D1 thing, or maybe some D1 drops or whatever. It's kind of a tough time. I think the transfer portal's probably opened that up a little bit with some of those D1 drops being able to enter the portal, and coaches can contact them at that point. But it's kind of a waiting game too, Paul.
Exactly.
As to who's going to be available, and then the dogfight starts when the games become available.
We talk about the drop downs, and Coach Jensen brought it up, the idea of the amount of drop downs we've seen on the women's side. We're seeing more on the men's side.
Yeah.
Do you see that as something that's going to continue? Do you think we'll start to see more and more drop downs on the men's side as we continue along, or where do you think that's going to kind of fluctuate at?
Well, I think we will, and I think we're going to see them from not Montana kids or ties to Montana, and I think that's going to come from the strength of the conference, the quality of play. I think these kids, social media is such a big thing, and the recruiting end of it, the films and stuff that are out there, not only, I guess what I used to tell kids that when I was coaching, I says, you got to go recruit your school. That school does what that college team does. You decide where you want to go play, what system you want to play in. I said, there's a lot of coaches that are going to come at you and want you to come play for them, but is that a good fit? So I think you're going to see more drop downs from, say, Oregon, Washington, that area, California. I think you're going to see some drops, more drops from there. And I think a lot of that's going to be the reason that, these kids can watch film of these other college teams as well.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I think we'll start to see them more and more. And like I say, especially the continued success of the conference. That's only going to continue to build it. And I still believe firmly that if I think Northern, if they get a pod, they go on the road. I'd be hard pressed to bet against them. I think they'd have won a pod. I truly think that they were that good a team, and we all certainly know that Providence could play with anybody on any given day. The idea of the overall strength of our conference would have been on exhibition even more so if that was the case. But we're going to continue to see deep runs out of this conference now for the next couple of years.
Yeah, and I don't really understand why we can, we get 3 teams in on the women's side pretty consistently anymore. Why we're not getting 3 teams. I know that the tournament in Arizona did hurt us this year on the men's side. We've talked about that, probably beat it up too much, but I just don't understand why the men aren't getting the same respect as the women are across the nation. I just don't understand that.
Well, and I wonder if a lot of it comes from, the RPI and the teams that you're playing, where they're ranked nationally and how good they are in their terms. For a lot of the programs, that trip to Arizona was one of the few where you're playing some other highly rated teams as well. So maybe, as we talked about, maybe a few more of those, whether you're bringing teams to Montana or you're going to other programs and playing a couple games, maybe that'll balance it out a little bit. So if you do have a bad weekend, it's not going to weigh that heavily on you, come the end of the season.
Yeah, I think so. I think that we need at least one more tournament like the Arizona tournament. Coach Isakson said something about one in Vegas. I honestly think we need to go to the Midwest somewhere. That's heart and soul of the NAIA. If you get into that area and you play some of those teams, you are going to get noticed. You're going to get respected. And I don't know, I know it's cheaper to is to the best, but it would be to Sioux City and play at a tournament there, kind of in the heart of the NAIA country, really.
Yeah. Well, and we'll see where that takes us. I mean, our coaches are incredibly smart. They certainly know the best way to get their teams out in front of other opponents, in front of good opponents. So we'll see what they're able to cook up. But you have to know that we certainly have things in the hopper, whether it is individual teams or as a group. Bringing teams in and getting 3 or 4 games, as they make their way across Montana. So we'll see what the next couple of years hold as far as the scheduling side goes, because we obviously know that's the toughest job for all these coaches to do, is to fill those non-conference games and find good opponents.
Yeah, that's and it's going to continue to be a problem. That's not going to change. But Paul, we need to talk about the All-American team for the men's side. Since we last week, I guess.
Yeah, since we missed it by like 12 seconds, for goodness sake.
Yeah, I'm going to let you go there.
The NAIA All-American list released last Tuesday on the men's side as well. And the Frontier Conference MVP, Caleb Belich, was named first team All-American. He was the second player in Montana Tech history to be given that honor, and certainly a great honor for him. And he goes down to the first minute of that first playoff game, and just a tough loss for him. His team played outstanding through the tournament, but Mr. Belich named first team All-American, and rightly so. He was just such a big factor in the conference, and just had such a great year overall. I want to say, I wrote the article, and I don't have my numbers in front of me. I think he was held to single digits twice all year, and had, I believe it was 8 games scoring over 25. Just truly like a model of consistency. And doesn't matter if teams were thought they were prepared for him or not. Caleb Belich came through in big times and big games for Montana Tech. So first team All-American. And then the other one that made me real happy as well is Jesse Keltner out of MSU Northern, getting honorable mention. He's a guy I've just loved to watch play. I think I've certainly said my piece about Belich through the years, and I'm certainly the president of the Caleb Belich fan club, but Jesse Keltner's another one that I'm not sure got the respect that he deserved in this conference. I love the way he gets after it, just a physical post. And him getting All-American honorable mention made me really happy.
Yeah, and I think, we talk about Northern possibly winning some pods and stuff. And I think Keltner would have been the key to that. If they would have gotten into a pod situation, I just think Jesse would have, he'd have done well in one of those situations when teams don't know him, and you can go out and you can play offensively, defensively. And he was just, like you say, just a blue collar worker as far as I was concerned.
And from there, other guys, I've had a lot of people raise questions as far as should anybody else have been on there. And I think the Providence guys all would have had a shot if, you look at Marcus Stevens and the season he had. But you have to remember, he didn't start until the new year. If he was on the court through the preseason, that really would have changed things. I think Marcus Stevens finds himself on that list easily if he is able to play that first part of the season. So, not taking anything away from the season he had and the career he had, but Marcus Stevens had a special year, and he would have been All-American easily if he was able to play those first couple months of the season.
Yeah, no doubt about that. I was kind of surprised. I thought he was a senior, but JC said that he was coming back.
I think Stevens is, I could be wrong, but I thought Stevens was a senior as well. I know Harris Williams has time left still, which makes me happy.
He's got a year.
But for some reason, I thought Stevens was done. And if not, I mean, from a fan's perspective, I'm excited. I know, every other coach in the conference is going to lose sleep if Marcus Stevens is back on the floor for Providence. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, Paul, you got anything else?
I don't think so. I'm just kind of reiterate the point. I'm excited those guys got the jobs they did. I'm happy with both institutions that they made the decisions as quickly as they did, because I think it only helps their program, especially when you have a great coach right there. So again, hats off to the programs for making the call. Again, congratulations to Caleb Belich and our Jesse Keltner out of Northern, both All-American, both deserving. As a Belich first team All-American, Keltner honorable mention. And from there, it's where we stand, man.
Yeah, no, NAI has a big meeting coming up this next week, national convention. So I might try to give Commissioner Paulson a call and see if we can get him on maybe next week. I don't know if he'll be home from there yet at that point, but then I think we'll jump into the football coaches.
And actually, I do have one bit of news. I heard that Iowa Wesleyan is closing their doors in May. So Iowa Wesleyan out of the North Star Conference. So that would leave the North Star with 5 schools in football and 7 in basketball. So my understanding, Iowa Wesleyan is closing. And that will leave the North Star Conference with 5 football teams, and that does not give them an automatic qualifier. So, I mean, let the discussion start there. The Iowa Wesleyan also the farthest east of those schools in the DAC. So, I mean, are the Dickinson and the other North Dakota schools, are they knocking on the door of the Frontier now, or what do we have? I mean, we have the possibility of, like a 12-team conference pretty easily. If you look at an East and a West with the Oregons and Idahos, and then you look at Montana and the Dakotas and the Arizona, our footprint could be changing again. But with the North Star only with 5 football schools, they're going to have to make something happen soon.
Yeah, that's definitely a big factor there with the automatic qualifier. So, all right. Well,
all right.
Let's wrap her up for the. I can't even talk now. Let's wrap it up for the day, and back next week. Like I said, I'm going to get Commissioner Paulson on and talk a little bit about the national conference, and then we'll jump into football. Talk to the football coaches around the league as they get started in spring drills, and talk to them about their recruiting, is what they see for the future of their programs.
You got it. I like it. So for Bob Ritterod, I'm Paul Panisco.
All right.
Thanks for joining us here with the Montana Sportscast podcast. And until next time, take care.